Hello, how are you? This is Matthew, and you are listening to Truth from the Booth, originating from the beautiful port city of Halifax, Nova Scotia. Unusually mild today, this 19th day of January, a Sunday. Rain is falling, and we go back out into one of the designated encampments. My guest today, Andrew Goodsell. Andrew has been on the radio program numerous times, my live streaming. We're going to get caught up to date. We're going to talk about the safety factor at the encampment that he is in, what it's like to live in the elements, the discussions that he's having with the public over the months, how it's changed, social media, and the opportunity to get out of a tent and into four walls just within the last 48 hours. So we'll find out what that experience was like and the end result. Lots to talk about, but first, as always, I like to find out where people are, my guests are, with their mental wellness. In this moment, Andrew, how are you?
Well, at this very moment, I've got a pretty good. I'd like to say it's like, well, 10's being the best and 1 being the worst. I'm probably up there at an 8, but let's be honest, the only reason I'm there is because I just had a really nice shower at my brother's place, and I'm getting all my laundry done, so I got lots of dry socks to deal with the upcoming weather tomorrow and for the next couple days.
So you're inside four walls as of this moment?
Yes, as of this moment.
Okay.
But again, it's literally just for the night, and then I'm back out to deal with the elements and the oncoming polar vortex.
Okay, well, let's talk about that because, again, this program is to educate individuals who I hope they never are in the situation where they don't have a place to live, but I tell the stories here on Truth from the Booth who people are living it, advocates, and I know that being exposed to the elements 24/7 will beat you down. So I know the answer to this, but I want you to explain to the audience, Andrew, the difference between right now we're dealing with 7 degrees and rain, and later in the week we'll see some of the coldest day temperatures this year. How do you mentally prepare? You know, because you have to go out and get food. You have to go out. So what's worse, going out in mild rain conditions or sunshine and minus?
For me, the rain is devastating. It's like there's not much that I can think of that hurts me more than rain. Just trying to dry off and that kind of stuff. The reality is that, especially with plummeting temperatures, it might be 7 today or tomorrow, but then it's going to be 0 or colder, which means that anything that gets wet is not going to dry. It's just going to freeze. It's bad. Literally the last few days, just knowing that this vortex is coming and whatnot has played on my mental health a lot. Right down to the point that I knew that I needed some kind of reprieve and just to make sure that I was as prepared as I can for this upcoming weather. Hence the socks, which might not sound like a big deal, but for me to be able to change into some dry socks and to make sure that I have an extra dry pair of clothes is absolutely the difference between me being very unhappy after getting wet to being, at least just minorly unhappy that I'm in a cold tent for the foreseeable future.
Let's talk about, you have been out in the elements for a while. I know from my own little bit of time last winter, I know when it's blizzard conditions, search and rescue will come out. I'm just wondering, have you seen search and rescue come out in instances where, a polar vortex is on the way? Do you think that there should be or is some type of game plan together? Because I've said many times, take some of the public transit buses, go to the 5 designated encampments, and just let them sit there. At least people can get out of the elements into something warm. Your thoughts?
Yeah, anything I think would be huge. I really do think that, especially just with the difference, because it's going to plummet so much that, it might not feel like much to someone that's easily able to quickly go indoors and whatnot, but that's huge, and I think that it's going to throw a lot of people off just because of how quick that it comes. And the reality is that I'm pretty sure 2 to 4 degrees is the temperature inside a refrigerator. So, and then 0 is freezing, right? So I honestly think that it's devastating. I really do think that they should be pushing for something for sure to make sure that everyone's safe and warm. And I don't know, again, for me, every single day that I'm out here, I just think to myself that we as a race have let everyone down. I find that the cost of living is getting so extreme that even people with good jobs and cheap rent are having a real hard time living. And then yet, for some reason, somehow, it feels like society expects the people out on the streets to be able to find market housing and actually get out of their situation. When I can assure you, for the last year, I look at market housing and it's not getting better. It's getting worse. There's not more stuff becoming available. There's less and less stuff becoming available. And at the end of the day, if you're struggling to get by and the only thing you're actually paying is your rent, I question what the purpose is. Like, I hear all these people talking about the world that we're in right now and how the states are trying to like amalgamate stuff. And I'm thinking it doesn't matter if you're in Mexico, the States, or here in Canada. We're letting our people freeze to death and die out there. And I just think that we're better than that. I know we've got the capabilities. I know we've got the technology. And I honestly believe in the core of my heart that the only reason that anywhere in the modern world is the way it is right now is just due to a sheer amount of greed. I'm all about people making a little bit of money when it comes to anything. But when it gets to the point where you're trying to make a lot of money off of people's bare necessity to live, there's a problem.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. I'm curious to know about your public engagement and how it has changed over the months you've been. You spent some time at the old library. I want to get to where you are in a moment currently, but for myself, Andrew, I see plenty of anger and misplaced frustration on social media. What types of dialogue are you having when you are walking about the streets here in the HRM?
I think mostly, like, everyone seems to understand fully where I'm coming from. No one's arguing, excuse me, no one's arguing where I'm at and what I'm doing and why I'm here. Everyone seems to be understanding. The populace realizes that things are getting harder and harder and there's becoming less and less for people. People that I know in public housing are actually going out and getting additional jobs so that they can afford to get anything besides the rent covered. And that alone can show you just how crazy the difference is, because most people in public housing are paying a fraction of what market housing is going for, literally a fraction. So if you can imagine that even these people are struggling, that really goes to show just how far removed society is from a standards person's quality of life, quality of living.
What I have seen with the unhoused here in the HRM, it's existing, but my goodness, you are the strongest individuals that I have met in Nova Scotia. Which leads me into this, Andrew: safety. You have bounced around musical parks over the last few months. I'm not going to tell people where you are. I don't need to give away your location, but let's talk about the safety there, because just within the last couple of weeks, you and I shared a news clip on the local news because there was a tent fire there. What's the safety factor like there? Who are some of the residents, and what type of engagements, if any, are you having?
So for where I'm currently at, which I'll let the world know, I'm at Flynn Park. Let's be honest, the problem when it comes to safety is if you're in a designated encampment, like you said, there's 6 or 7 designated encampments. It takes nothing for anyone out there to walk to these encampments and to see who is in these encampments. So, I guess if anyone's got problems with people out there, it's really devastating and scary because there's nowhere for them to hide. A tent's not going to save you from anything.
Can you talk about the night of the fire?
Yeah, so the fire itself was crazy. It was scary to me because it was very close to where I was located. I was literally having explosions go off behind me, and seeing a massive fire in front of me, and not knowing if debris was going to come over, if next thing you know, my tent was going to be on fire. Obviously, Dusty's safety was a big concern of mine. So, like, and and then for that particular tent, the person who was in it felt very dangerous to me. I didn't even know this guy, but he was literally ranting off all the names of the people in the encampment, saying that he was going to murder or kill us all, and that these were his woods and that kind of stuff, right? So I woke up twice at 3 o'clock in the morning, to this person like 20, 30 feet away from my tent, just tearing at it. So you can imagine how terrifying that would be for most people. Last night, I looked out my tent, and at midnight, there was some guy walking the trail for where my tent's at, and there's no reason for anyone to be there. Like, there's nothing to cut through. So, like, that kind of stuff creeps me right out. I don't understand why anyone would be anywhere around there, let alone walking down my part of this little trail, when I've literally put myself as far back and out of the way as I possibly could, just to make sure that people didn't need to do that kind of thing, right? So as far as scare factor goes, I said it before and I'll say it again, it's straight out terrifying at times, because you just don't know. There's no security with a tent. There's absolutely none. In fact, you think that it's even more dangerous, because if someone really wanted to, they could just throw a small fire on top of me or something. I don't know. And then on top of that, funny enough, there was another fire last night or the night before last. It was quite a bit further away, but again, here I am hearing all these explosions, looking at the forest on fire, calling 911 yet again. Luckily enough, this time someone had already called previously before I did, but again, here I am wondering, are these woods going to go up in flames because someone's drank too much and left their heater on or something? And I did get confirmed by the fire people that came by just to check on everyone that day, that's what it was again, was these buddy heaters. So that's what caused the last one, and that's what caused this one. And again, what's going to happen if these woods go up and they catch up on enough fire and these guys don't show up in time? I don't know. To me, it's very scary. It's devastating, and it's not good for anyone.
Well, I think you had made a point in the news clip about, if navigators are going to hand out buddy heaters, they need to educate those that they're giving the heaters to. And what struck me about what you just said, Andrew, sheer terror and anxiety of being in your tent at this encampment, and then the anxiety of just going into a safe place for a few hours thinking, I wonder if I'm going to get robbed or if someone's going to slash my tent. You know what I mean? So there is zero escape, audience. That's why Andrew is a guest here. Andrew, do you have more time?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the Atlantic Community Shelter Society. They have some new pallet shelter homes. Andrew had a tour. We're going to get his thoughts on that after the break. My name is Matthew. You are listening to Truth from the Booth on Folked Up Radio. We'll be right back after this. The winter season. Heavy snow, ice accumulation, freezing temperatures, and wind chill. Frostbite, frost snip, and hypothermia increase at wind chill values below minus 27. At minus 34, it doesn't matter who you are. Not properly dressed for the cold, hypothermia in as little as 10 minutes. Winter storms are often called the deceptive killer, since many deaths can be attributed to indirect causes of adverse weather. Housing first, housing for all. Housing now. Talk radio with a focus. Truth from the booth. The intention? To provide a brief glimpse into unique, real-life situations. True stories. The good, the bad, and the unjust. Tens of thousands of listeners and hours of meaningful and relevant conversations. When you're ready to share your story, share it on Truth from the Booth. Saturdays and Sundays on Folked Up Radio.
Welcome back to Truth from the Booth with Matt Grant and Andrew Goodsell, guesting today on Folked Up Radio.
Thank you so much. You know, I think at some point I may have like a behind the scenes, like things that I edit out and maybe just put a reel together. Great conversations before and after we are recording. Okay, let's get back into the conversation. We're speaking with Andrew Goodsell. Before the break, I had mentioned that the Atlantic Community Shelter Society is now looking after some tiny pallet shelters. You had a tour of that facility on Friday, and we call this Truth from the Booth. What was your experience like there, and what was the end result?
All right, so I got a drive up there for my housing coordinator, and the first thing that I noticed, even coming up to it, first of all, the housing coordinator wasn't able to tell exactly where it was, so it did take us a minute to find it. Not that it's that hidden, but I guess just the overall look and stuff of it kind of threw both of us off. Basically, I want to say it's a large plot, but it's not even that large, but it's a gravel plot surrounded by a large chain link fence with security. It honestly, if you look up what a detainment center would look like, that's the feel that I got just coming up to this place, was that it was a detainment center. It didn't feel safe at all to me to have this crazy big wire fence going around and to have security sitting there. I think maybe if they had it opened with security there, it might have felt a lot more welcoming. But just the overall look, gray gravel, big chain link fence, and a bunch of small pallets and other small buildings for various things. So we get in, and I get a quick tour right away. They show me a building that's got laundry facilities and sinks. They show me the bathroom buildings, which have toilets and sinks, and a few of them had a stand-up shower as well. They showed me the pallets, which honestly, they're very, very small, the footprints. It had literally just enough room for the cot and the desk that was in there, and then a little tiny area that you could probably hang a few clothes and whatnot.
What's the square footage? What do you think the square footage is there?
The square footage, I don't know. It's got to be, if I had to guess, it's about the same kind of square foot as one of those ice shelters that you're seeing everywhere. So roughly, I don't know, 6 feet by 8 feet, something like that, give or take. Well, maybe even smaller, because I'm in my nephew's room right now, and I'm pretty sure they standard 8 by 8, so it feels smaller than this for sure. Okay. And then they also mentioned that because they were bought in California, that they have major condensation issues with these things, which actually kind of threw me off. Like, she went on to say that the laundry can get caught up just because of the amount of condensation that are building up in these things, which really threw me off. But that didn't deter me too much, to be honest. And then they also mentioned that there was a meal program there, which I thought was really good. So again, I was kind of leaning towards, I was excited. I was actually thinking, all right, you know what? It feels kind of like a containment center, but they are working on it. Maybe it'll get better. They do have the laundry facilities. I'm able to take a shower, and I know I'm going to get fed. That's kind of cool.
Did you meet any of the staff?
So I met the one main staff worker that was there. Lauren, I don't know what her last name was, but she's like the main management, I think. And besides that, it was just a couple security guards. They had 2 or 3 security guards kicking around the area. And that's all I had seen so far. I don't know how full it was either. I believe most of the units were still pretty emptied. So anyway, we do the tour, and then I ask about cannabis, and they tell me that I'm not allowed to have my cannabis on me, that, you know, whether it's a pipe, rolling papers, cannabis, it all has to be handed into the office, which was a huge thing for me because I've been in a situation like that before, and if anything happens in that area and the office workers have to deal with it, I'm then not able to get my cannabis. So I could be waiting for however long it takes for them to deal with the situation, just to get that nighttime puff kind of deal. It really bothered me, especially considering how the use of alcohol and stuff seems to be permitted inside your thing. So if I wanted to and I was into drinking, I could sit there and get completely drunk and then wander around. But as far as just grabbing my stuff, going out for a puff. I couldn't do that.
Okay, so that's a red flag. That's a red flag for you.
Yeah, that is a huge red flag for that is a huge red flag for me. It really isn't. I don't think it should be a big deal if I was breaking rules and smoking inside the pallet or something. Then I could see where they'd give you a warning and then kick you out or whatever for violating it, whatever. But just to be able to tell me that I have to hand in my stuff every time I come, and then get it when I go, like, to me, that is a huge red flag. Cannabis is legal. You're not taking my cigarettes. You're not taking, anything else from these guys that I know of. So, and even if you are, I always say I'm a man of principle. So the reality is, I'm sure I could hide my cannabis pipe and some cannabis in my pocket, hand in a bunch of stuff, and then not have that worry. But because I'm a man of principle and I don't believe I should have to do that, I won't do that. I just think it's wrong to do those kind of things when I shouldn't have to. So that was a big one. And then finally, the third thing for me that really kind of red flagged it was when they told me that I had to look for market housing, which I understand the idea of looking for housing, but when you're telling a guy that's literally been fighting for years and years, very in the face of everyone over the last year, that the problem with market housing is that's what's killing everyone right now. That's what's keeping inflation going up. And if we're not working towards non-market housing, public housing, and other factors, then things are only going to get worse. So I don't understand why I'd be pushing to try to get into market housing that we all know, literally everyone knows it's not available. If it was readily available, I wouldn't be in the situation that I'm in to begin with. I remember having a hard time finding it in 2018, let alone 2024. So,
yes.
So I don't know, between the fact that it looked like a detainment center, the fact that they wanted to micromanage my cannabis use and hold on to it all, and the idea that I'm supposed to be looking for market housing, which again I'm looking, it's not there, not for whatever assistance is working out. And I honestly believe that, again, I can go and I can get work, but I'm not working to make $1,700 for a basic box with what everyone deserves. My biggest fight is that we need to make the cost of living much more affordable. Someone's basic needs, which in my opinion is food, water, and shelter. Those are the most basic needs for anyone. We shouldn't be pushing all our money for those basic needs. We should be pushing our money for the things that we want, not the things that we need. So, and that's where I say I don't mind paying someone so much and understanding that they need to make a little bit of a profit for whatever. But there's no way that we should be where we're at, Matthew. No one should be paying what they're paying for their house costs. It's obviously an epidemic, a pandemic, whatever you want to name it. And it actually blows my mind away that we haven't declared it so here in Nova Scotia, because they've already declared intimate partner violence as a pandemic or epidemic or whatnot. And that's literally directly related with housing. Because if there's nowhere for anyone to go, if there's nowhere for a single person to afford, what are they going to do? They're going to be stuck in the situation that they're in. So whether the girl is mentally abusing the guy or even physically, or the guy is physically abusing the girl or whatever, they can't get out of that situation because there's nowhere for them to go.
Yeah, I know. It's...
right? Well, I think it goes hand in hand. I think that because we've charged so much now for the standard of living, that you're not going to fix this problem. In fact, we've encouraged this problem by not making sure that there is an alternative. And again, look around. The fact that single person units for singles and or couples is not available tells me again that we've let our entire society down.
Well, let's put a button on this. Your visit to this location. Now that it's over, you've said no. You're back at the encampment. So, what is next on Do you continue the dialogue with navigators in case something else come along? Like,
so that's the hope. Is that either I know that there is other situations. I don't know the exact details. I'd love to find out more about these tiny homes that I know are affordable. That I'd actually look forward to getting any kind of job that I could actually work with, which is a lot actually, and feel comfortable that not only am I able to pay my bills, but that when it's all said and done, I still have money to spend on the things that I want and enjoy. And again, that's just one example. I honestly believe that we could be doing things like that all over, right into the city too. I don't understand why we don't have more apartment buildings that are built with more units that are orientated towards singles and couples, and how come those aren't affordable? And I mean, too, the lowest, if you're a full-time worker, I don't care if you're making the absolute bare minimum, if you're working full-time and you cannot afford to live here, there's a massive problem. That is a massive problem. That is huge in my opinion. And I was working 2 jobs when I first got here and had a hard time finding anything. And again, that was a decade ago. Now it's not happening. There's nothing out there for someone like me that I could feel good about anyway. To go to work, make that money, go home, pay off all my bills, and then still have something to show for it. I think that's the biggest deal for me, is that going to work, getting all my basic bills paying, having nothing left over, maybe not even enough to pay those basic bills, which seems to be the way it is for most people now. It destroys everything. It destroys my concept of why bother going to work? Why bother getting another job? As crummy as my situation is dealing with these elements and stuff, the stress factors of not stressing about bills and stuff every month, having to go to these other resources so I can get food and stuff to live, which again seems to be the way of people whether they've got a place or not. I don't know. Like, I put so much thought into it, and I was so sad and disappointed a little bit with myself, but then again more so with just the whole system with the pallet shelters. And it's just very, very depressing, very, very devastating to me, and really makes me feel like I got to work on my mindset again to realize that I'm not going to get a dignified housing situation, so that I got to work on making sure that I'm happy with what situation I'm in, which is living in a tent, dealing with all the elements, and being happy that there's enough churches out there that care about the people, that I actually can feed myself.
Well, I think we should take this time to give a shout out to Dusty, because Dusty is critical.
He's
in
a
your
superhero. He is if it wasn't for Dusty, I'd be in a much, much dark. Actually, if it wasn't for Dusty, I don't even know if we'd be talking right now.
Yeah.
After they trampled my for me to find myself in this situation could have set me off the edge doing some kind of criminal activity. When they bulldozed my stuff on university, literally throwing out my most sentimental stuff, Dusty's original paperwork, my stuffy from my daughter, so many little things that were hugely sentimental. I could have gone postal that day if it wasn't for Dusty. The fact that the next day I got completely trampled on by the weather with absolutely nothing because the city took it all, and what was gifted to me by someone like yourself was also then stolen from me after the fact. So if it wasn't for Dusty, things would be so much more different. He really does deserve the shout out. He is a light in the darkness.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think you wanted the last month and a half not good for Andrew Goodsell. And which brings me to this, like, just trauma compounded on top of trauma, So, but what I have seen, and just recently with the live streaming that I've done and reading some of the comments, people are not trauma informed about people who are unhoused.
I don't
people
think
are still
people
saying,
can
just go
even
get a job.
grasp the idea
No,
of my trauma there, Matthew, because my trauma has been one thing over another. And I'm sure this happens to other people as well, but I'm talking Revenue Canada Agency taking all my earnings or EI earnings in the past, then years later my account's getting frozen and depleted, all because apparently they didn't like the numbers that they were getting for my taxes, which have always been done through legit tax sources. So I don't understand that because they didn't like the numbers, how they could change them and take everything from me. And then again, to realize that there's no place that's affordable. And then when I finally do find a place that's affordable, I'm cleaning up other people's feces in a kitchen on a daily basis, thinking to myself, I should be getting paid for this, not paying for this. And then even more and more things. Here's a place for you, Andrew. You finally got one. Don't worry, it's transitional. Oh, you will never get transitioned, Andrew. You will never get public housing because you're a man between the ages of 26 and 64. So you will never get it, and then find yourself homeless, and then find yourself looking for help. And then all these people saying, well, no, there's no help for you. And then their idea of help is micromanaging you to the point that you are no longer even an individual. Apparently, I can't even smoke a joint without permission from these people now, and that's hoping that, again, that I can even get to my stuff. And then I'm leaving my trust into these people who I don't even know. These are a bunch of strangers.
Well, the team's
I've
not
heard
even
all
put
kinds of
together.
stories in the past about what happens to people's stuff once it gets into the storage areas, right? So, there's a million factors, and it's trauma over trauma over trauma. Add a little bit more, add a little bit more. Again, the one thing I've said to people countless times, and I truly believe this, and I'm just so happy, is I don't understand why I'm not shooting up right now, why I'm not shoving a bunch of alcohol down my throat. The fact that I'm even still on this planet, I question how the hell I managed to get here some days. Because, the trauma's huge, and it just seems to be compounding on top of each other constantly. And then again, for me, who's seen it, who's felt it, who knows it, who knows all these solutions, who advocates to all these people, all these outreach workers, all of their bosses, every shelter that's out there, it's like if I've talked to any of these people, they all say the same thing. They all agree. We really do got to start focusing on just being good and kind to humans and making sure that we all have our basic needs met, because it is the difference, right? You want to talk about good quality mental health for all. Well, I can tell you now, stressing about your bills every month is not good for mental health. Worrying about rain coming on you every day is not good for your mental health. Sitting inside a place that you can afford, that you're not worried about your bills, that is really good for your mental health. Sitting inside and watching that crazy rainstorm that you absolutely love because you're not living in it, that's good for your mental health, right? So,
good point.
Right.
Good point.
That's a huge thing for me. We got to stop focusing on doing either A, nothing, or B, making things worse for people's mental health. And we really got to start focusing on making things good for people, making it so that we're not stressed out about the day-to-day life.
Yes.
Right?
One final thing. I really appreciate your time, Andrew. One final thing.
I appreciate you, Matthew. You have no idea, buddy. You really do cheer me up.
Awesome. We've spoken many times here on the radio program and the live stream. People know, or they're going to find out, that you did run for mayor here in Halifax.
I'm very proud of that.
Yes, and a lot of people are. I think it was just shy of 1,000 or 900, something like that. What was it?
Yeah, I got, as far as I know, the official number was 855, and the amount of people, countless people now that have apologized for not voting towards me, makes me feel like if I had pushed a little harder and pushed those people a little harder, I would have been at the 1,000 or over, which again, I feel is very impressive. I did this all with nothing but a busted Motorola G Play phone and about 300 pamphlets and some sidewalk chalk. So to get those kind of numbers with what I had and what I was doing, I can tell you now, it puts a smile on my face every time I think 855, because I don't know anyone. I got a handful of people. I can count the amount of people on my hands that I feel close enough to to even step in their home. So to get 855 people that backed me up, that says huge things to me.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Well, let's talk about, let's end it with this. The mayor who won, Andy Fillmore, he, on his campaign, it was going to end encampments. We have 5 designated encampments here in the Halifax Regional Municipality. You are in one of those. How do you see that playing out for you?
Well, again, here's I don't know what to say other than it blows my mind if anyone thinks he's doing anything but making things worse, actually, at this point. As far as I know, he's done nothing to actually help deal with any of these issues. His name's not behind anything that's going on right now towards helping out the homeless. He's made things worse by, for instance, bulldozing all of my most personal stuff into the garbage, and I am going to blame him because he did have the power to stop it and chose not to. On top of that, it's like end encampments. It's like, well, what are you giving us? Are you going to get us more of these detainment centers and say that it's okay that I get pushed into here, or now I'm forced into here because if I'm not, I go to jail, in which case I start to question what's better, the detainment center or jail. So I don't know. I give no credit to Andy Fillmore for anything that's going on right now. As far as I'm concerned, he's only made things worse. And, well, if you want to end encampments, good, get in line. I wanted to end encampments. I also wanted to bring public housing. He does not, right? So, if you're looking to really help people out, we do got to get non-market housing out there. It's all over every radio broadcast. Every big professional now is shouting out the same things that I've been shouting out for years. It's so actively out there that, again, the fact that we're not getting new public housing, they're not even talking about building more non-market housing for the average person. He's making things worse. There's no denying it. You're not fixing anything. You're only making things worse. And until you show me that you're actually looking to make the quality of life better for everyone that's not your personal business buddies, then no, man, I don't even know why people voted for this guy.
Well, I'll tell you what, when things begin to happen, who knows, they may be waiting until springtime. But when things do start to get active with the 5 designated encampments, you can bet that I'll be speaking with people who are there, because I know people at most of the encampments, and I will certainly be grabbing my video equipment, and by that I mean my phone, and doing my live streaming. So, Andrew, thank you for just continuing to share your journey and your experience, and most importantly, educating the audience here on Truth from the Booth. Thank you.
Much love, Matthew.
Okay, thank you so much, Andrew. Listen, I want to tell the audience, I want to tell you, listening from the comfort of wherever you are, there was a moment in the story that Andrew was sharing about the individual outside of his home, outside of his tent in the woods on the outskirts of Halifax, and how terrified he was. And I was thinking to myself, listening to that story, how I have spoken with paranormal investigators. I have been on paranormal investigations and have been frightened. The most scared I've ever been, myself personally, and for those individuals. But you know what? Those were spirits. Those were apparitions. What Andrew is dealing with is real terror, and he is not the only one experiencing it. Hundreds here in the HRM, thousands across the province, hundreds of thousands across the country, millions around the globe. We need to do better. We are better. Thank you, Andrew. My name is Matthew. New Truth from the Booth returns in 6 days. Enjoy the week if you can. Let's get you back to the great music on Canada's #1 folk station, 99.9 FM, Perth Andover, and folkedupradio.com.